Today I'm going to talk about growing a software company. Mainly this is for people who, small teams, maybe individuals running a company. I want to talk about mostly productivity or business tools. And I want to talk about how to have high growth with, I want to say low input, but basically where you don't need to be working 24/7, because when you're in a small team or when you're doing on your own, you kind of try to do everything and you're working all the time. It always seems like you have to be on call, so I want to focus on that part. And I want to make sure people focus on the right aspects of their business. So, who am I? My name is Paul. I work for a company called Rage Software, and I've been doing this for since 1999 is when I started developing with Xojo. Let's fix this a bit. I started back making a file manager. Making a file manager, and then now focusing mostly on search engine optimization software, and now I make a website builder called Everweb. So I think there's two goals when you want to create a software company. One, obviously, you want a popular product. So that's a good community around your product, a passionate and growing user base. But also, very important, a sustainable pricing model. To me, that means obviously not free, because everybody can create a free popular product, but something that has regular measurable income. So I just want to start off with a bit of a story in the background of kind of where the concepts I'm going to talk about come from. So as I said, I was creating search engine optimization software, and what I found was that a lot of people were emailing me really, really basic questions, and the reason was they were using a product called iWeb, which was Apple's website builder at the time. So my strategy was to create a tool called iWeb SEO tool, which was a free tool for people to optimize their iWebsites in the hope that they would then go and buy my more expensive products. By doing that, by creating this free tool, I built a very strong following. I added a lot of people to my mailing list. I grew a really, really, really big mailing list. Because I created this really unique product that became highly recommended by Apple and other companies. So I built a lot of trust within the community. Now, that brings me to where I am today, making Everweb, which started off as an iWeb replacement, because Apple had discontinued it a couple years ago. So what makes great software? So you want to have some type of direct benefit, and the best benefit, I think, is to create something that allows the end user to make money. If you could show them that they can make money from your product, you don't really need to, the price of your product doesn't really matter, because then it becomes more of an investment than it is, a price. So the direct benefit of showing people how they can make money, for example, with Everweb, they can create websites for clients. With our SEO tools, they were able to do reports and they were able to do these optimizations for their clients. So if there's something, like a generic thing that anybody can kind of do is do automatic reporting or white labeling of your products, and just showing a way that people can use your software to make money on their own. That way your product is more of an investment. The next is to save a tremendous amount of time, not a little bit of time, but a tremendous amount of time, because most people already have all of their processes in place. Even if your product can save a bit of time, if it saves it, people won't change their habits. So you have to look at how you can save a tremendous amount of time for your customers. And lastly, or thirdly, a product that produces results quickly. So any way that they can get any way that they could feel accomplished really quickly will produce a much better, will help them adapt your software much quicker. So creating pre-built themes, pre-built templates, a starting point for them. So make them feel accomplished as quickly as you can. And thirdly, help and support. Creating the right help resources for customers to be able to find the information that they need. We focus a lot on video tutorials, but any type of knowledge-based articles, manuals, even in different languages, and then having the right support, customer support, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So what makes any product really great and is thinking about what is unique and valuable to your customer, but difficult for competitors to imitate. If you could think about this type of stuff, this is what will make your product very successful. So in our case, some of the things that we have are reputation. So as I said, with our iWeb SEO tool, we created really, really good reputation by creating these free tools, and people began to really trust us. Customer support, done correctly. Customer support is something that is very difficult for other people to get right because a lot of people ignore it. Customer time invested in your product. For example, for our product, it's free until you want to actually publish your website. So once they've downloaded the product for free, used it to kind of design what they want their website to look like, they're not going to go and switch now because they just need to publish it. They're already really invested. And a plugin system. So for us, we have this plugin system that we can release these plugins without updating the entire software. We've built a community around it. We have over 500 plugins or widgets that we provide, and it's very difficult for a competitor to just come up there and just say, just come and not have these community resources that we have. Other benefits that are hard to duplicate are obviously cross-platform, which is what Xojo is really good at. File formats or syncing formats. Once you have something syncing, you're not going to want to change. Localized software is fairly straightforward to do, but it's something that a lot of people don't look at or don't do correctly. Obviously, any patents, and then there's help resources. So for us, we focus on video tutorials, and we have over 300 of them, and that's a very difficult thing for other companies to then go and duplicate very quickly. So once you have your customers, what about finding customers? How do you find all of your customers? As I said before, free products, but specifically free products that are for related software. So we looked at iWeb and we said, this is a popular product, so we created an add-on for iWeb. And there's a lot of ways that you can say, there's a lot of third-party products that you can make an add-on for that could be related to your products in the hopes of upselling your customers. And I think that this is the best way to do marketing instead of advertising or anything like that. This kind of builds trust, builds a community, and gets people recommending your software. And the third-party products will probably usually recommend your product. So industry competitor and alerts. So I use a tool called mention.net, and there's also BuzzSumo. And what that does is you could set up alerts and you could find out who's talking about you or your competitors or anything in your industry and get emailed every day. So for example, I had alerts for all of my competition, and I got an email about a review for one of my competitors, and it was on Macworld, and I found the guy who had written the review, and I emailed him, and he wrote a review about our stuff, gave us a really good review, and then did a roundup of all the website builders and chose us as the best one, and now we have this forever in our marketing material. So this is a great way to find out who's talking about you and join in on the discussion. Participating in industry forums, obviously, just finding out where your customers are and getting in there. I created a blog post years and years ago about how to properly optimize an iWeb site, and I put it on this forum, and everyone started linking to it. They eventually copied all my stuff and would sell it as their own, but I was the first person to kind of do it. So bundles. Bundles are getting kind of old. I think they really devalue your product. So what I like to focus on is creating bundle-specific products. So just like the free add-on products that are very valuable a valuable product to your customer. You can give it whatever price you really want and then sell it in the bundles. So instead of selling your main product in the bundle, think about a kind of a lighter version that you can create that could be specifically for these bundle products, mostly so that you can get the emails of people that are interested in your software. Cross promos. So cross promos, we do cross promos with different companies where we'll send out their product to our mailing list and they'll send it out to their mailing list or on our Facebook page. And that's pretty much a recommendation from a trusted source already because their customers have already bought from them. So cross promos, offering a discount to other companies that might be related to you or even don't really have to be related to you, but just getting in front of their market. And obviously, this is very easy, but free versions for all Apple employees and user group leaders, they're usually the influencers. Apple employees are obviously the influencers. For us, we always get people saying, I went to the Apple store and they recommended this, and you can't really get a better recommendation than somebody from Apple recommending your products. The other thing I do specifically for Apple employees is I will automatically email them 30 days and 1 year after they take advantage of the free software. I don't even care if they're using it, I just want them to remember my product in their mind. So if anybody ever asks them, how do I build a website, or how do I do something that would require my products, it just keeps me in their mind. So it doesn't even matter if they're using it, you just want them to know that you exist, because people will always ask Apple employees or a user group leader or anybody with some type of tech knowledge what they would use to carry out a certain task. So knowing your customers, so once you have the customers, these are some strategies that I do to help keep my customers engaged and understand what they want. The first thing is customer surveys. I'm always doing a customer survey. I do 2 customer surveys almost all the time. The first one is a survey trying to understand what the customer wants. So right now I want to know if they value having a localized version of my software, what future features they want. But specifically, I always ask people, if my product didn't exist, what would they use? Because I want to know what else is out there and what else is on their minds. I always give a benefit for filling out my surveys. So for example, I do 1 year of upgrades and support when you buy my product. So I will say, if you fill out the survey, you get 1 month free of upgrades and support, because I want that feedback. The other survey that I do is, I will switch this on every couple months, is a day after people purchase, I will send them an email asking if there's any problems with their purchase, and if they were considering any other product when they were searching for this solution. I found a lot of things that I didn't even consider on my order form that people had told me about. For example, people would say, well, I'm going to give you my credit card info, and then what happens next? They had no idea that they even had to check their email. So now I have a little note under the checkout button that says, your license is automatically activated, check your email when you're done. And I didn't even consider this, but almost everybody consistently told me this. So every couple months I'll turn this survey on, and I'll also offer them the benefit just to respond to my email. It's automatic and it comes from my personal email, so it looks personal, and I give them that benefit if they just respond to me and tell me about any problems they had. The other thing is learning about your customers through newsletters. So if you use any type of newsletter software such as MailChimp or Constant Contact or something like that, they'll track who's clicking your newsletters and who's viewing, who's opening your newsletters and who is clicking through to the links. So with this, you can see what the most popular features are. For us, we'll send out about a couple emails every couple weeks when someone signs up. So you'll get things like an SEO advice or e-commerce advice or something, and then I could see what newsletters are the most popular, and that's what my customers most value. But the other benefit is that when I go and release a new version, I could say everybody who opened up the e-commerce email, they're going to get this announcement, or they're going to get this offer, and it's going to be tailored to what they had opened previously. So it really increases click-through rate and customer engagement. So tracking newsletter opens and clicks, and then targeting your announcement messages. Now, something that I think is really important is reputation. If you have a really good reputation, you don't really need to do that much selling to your customers. And it's something that your competitors can't really take from you. So as I said before, free add-on software really builds trust. People love free, so people will come to you and they will use your products, and they will trust that you're offering them the right solution because you're giving them something that's free and that's valuable. Help resources. So as I said before, we do a lot of video tutorials. For us, video tutorials are really good because if you post a video tutorial to YouTube, for example, it's almost guaranteed to show up on the front page of Google within days, whereas a blog article or any type of other article will take a long time just to even appear in Google's results, let alone the first page. So a video tutorial on YouTube is almost instantly going to show up in Google's search results. But it also shows that you really care about your product. It shows that your product is much bigger. It could show that your product is much bigger than it is. And they're pretty straightforward to get to outsource and to get done. Community building, obviously, having that social proof for your business is really important. So having people who have liked your Facebook page is important, but having that constant engagement can really improve your reputation. Just showing that people are really engaged with your product. So some of the things that you could do to help with community building, there's a couple things. So if you don't really already have a community of people, the strategy that I would suggest is having a closed beta system where you only invite a couple of your really passionate users and tell them to submit feedback. If they submit feedback, you'll give them some type of benefit. For example, extending their upgrades and supports, free add-ons, free something to really get them engaged so that other people see that there's already a community there when you open it up to the rest of your community. And properly engaging with your community. So that means that having a picture of yourself so that people can put a personal touch to you or to your team. Responding quickly to people's questions, posting announcements, posting discounts or deals is a great way to start building that community and showing people that you are a real person and that they can contact you if they need. And lastly, customer support. So the next slide, I'm going to talk more about customer support and doing it correctly, because I think that this is a very important step that a lot of people kind of overlook and aren't doing properly. I think that you need to rethink the way that you do customer support. So who here has ever spent an hour or an afternoon or a day or a week helping one customer figure out a problem? Yes, I do it all the time. I still kind of do it now, because for me, problem solving is kind of the fun in programming. I always like finding that problem. But the thing is that when you're doing that for one customer, you're hurting all your other customers that you aren't paying attention to. You have to help the greatest amount of customers that you can with your valuable time. If you spend any amount of time helping one customer, you're forgetting about all your other customers. And I think that, to me, is bad customer service. So you have to rethink the way that you do customer support. Instant replies are much better than individual solutions. Showing a customer that you're there is much better than actually solving the problem for them as quickly as you can, because a lot of times they can solve the problem on their own. And so how do you do that? How do you get to the point where you can do instant replies? You need to outsource customer support. Customer support needs to be, there are people that can learn your product, that can understand your product at a level 1 or level 2 support level. And only when they need you do they request your help. So you have to rethink the way you do it and get somebody to respond right away to your customers so that they know somebody's there, and then investigate the problem. And if they still need your help, they can contact you. That provides a lot of benefits, not just by freeing up your time, but they could do other things that give you a different perspective on your software or how your customers see it, with weekly or monthly reports, however you want. They can create tutorials for common problems, and they can really look at it from a different viewpoint. And I think you could outsource this. Like for us, we use a service called supportyouраpp.com, which has been really good. But you could find people anywhere in the world who are really, really smart, really dedicated to your products, work really, really hard, and can learn your software really, really well, and start providing better customer support to your clients. So if you're the developer and you're doing customer support, I think that you really need to rethink the way you do it and think about helping everybody versus just individual customers. So just remember that all your customers need you, not just the ones that have this maybe obscure bug that only they're going to suffer from, or not that many people are going to suffer from. So I'm not saying not to fix these problems, but just really rethink and think about how you can help everybody on a much bigger scale, and how you can outsource these things that are mundane and you don't need to be doing. Now, the next thing is recurring revenue. I think that it's interesting. I think that there's a lot of companies struggling right now because they're not getting this recurring revenue. They're selling products as in the old-fashioned way, I like to call it, versus the 1.0, the 2.0, and the 3.0 releases. I think this is a major problem. The worst thing that could happen, not just for you, but for your customers, is that you go out of business. So you have to think about how much money you really want, how much money you need to earn in order to stay in business. Now, obviously, customers hate subscriptions, and people are so afraid of them now. I think it's starting to change with the changes that Apple's doing with the App Store. But there's a right way to do it, and I think that's a hybrid. If you look at some companies, for example, you saw what happened with Text Expander and how they just kind of took away their standalone application and went to a revenue. They had a lot of backlash. So for us, what we do is we focus on you have a standalone version, which gets you 1 year free upgrades and support, and then you have a subscription basis because we offer a service that is ongoing. So if you're going to if you're going to be pricing your software, I think the right way is 1 year of upgrades and support, or 2 years, however you want to do it. But instead of looking at the major releases like a 1.0 and a 2.0, you need to start thinking about how you can get consistent revenue coming in. Now, this is an optional. They don't need to renew after 1 year, but hopefully you have enough good features after that 1 year that they want to. But the problem with the 1.0s and the 2.0s and 3.0 major releases is you're going to delay because you want to make sure that version is good enough for the upgrade price. You're just going to have more bugs because obviously there's more features in there. So there's a lot of problems with that model. The idea of just selling 1 year of upgrades and support lets you just release those new features without any type of delay. Just put them out there whenever they're ready. If the App Store supports the hybrid model, I think that they only have the one-time purchases, then they have the in-app purchases, and then they have the subscription models I think that they're coming out with. I actually avoid the App Store for Mac apps, which obviously you can't for iOS apps. But for Mac apps, I avoid it for many other reasons. But I don't think you can I think you'd have to do an in-app purchase in some form with them. So the other thing is, selling customer support and upgrades as a recurring revenue model is something that I think that needs to really be highly considered. Remember, customer support is an ongoing process, is an ongoing service. Now, you also need to think about a valuable ongoing service. So it could be things like automatic backups, reporting, or syncing, or some feature that could be put into your app that could be sold ongoing. So as I said before, we have the option of you don't need to be in a subscription. You could buy this 1 year of upgrades and support, so customers know that it's not a subscription service, it's their license forever, but they do have that option of paying you more money. There's always some type of service, I believe, that could be associated with your product that could add convenience and value that customers would be willing to pay for. And once you get customers to buy your product, it's much easier to convince them to get on this subscription. So just think about what's something that you could improve, that can improve your customer's experience, that can be sold as a service. Now, if you really can't think of anything, you also have to have upsells. So create your product in such a way that you can sell add-ons or third parties can sell add-ons. Not only does that create a community around your product, but it also gives you other revenue sources, other ways that you can earn money, whether it's templates, themes, plugins, or whatever. There should be a way that you can upsell your customers and give them something of value. Especially instead of updating your entire software and providing a new release, you could just release these add-ons. Filters for photography applications, for example, but add-ons that add value and give other opportunities for your existing customers to pay you. Because remember, the point is you need to stay in business and you need to be profitable. If you're not doing anybody any favors. You're not doing anybody any favors by being the cheapest or by being the least expensive. You're not doing anyone any favors. You want to be the best and you want to stay in business. I also do think that this trend is people are getting more and more used to subscriptions nowadays. So press. So press is obviously a really good avenue for getting the word out there for your product. Interacting with press can be difficult for some people. The first thing is obviously to have a press kit. So the press kit should be made up of, you need to be in control of how your product is portrayed to the public. And you can do that with the press kit. You can have screenshots the way that you want your product to be shown, icons, descriptions, features. So for us, we have all that, but we also have a 250-word description, a 500-word description, and a 750-word description, so that press can pretty much just take what we have and create a story. They can change it however much they want, but they have all the resources. They don't need to do anything. I think everybody in the world is lazy, and especially people who might have to look for the right story all the time are going to really appreciate the fact that they're given all the stuff that they need. So what about opening the door with them? How do you find them? How do you talk to them? I think there's two ways to open the door with press. The first one is becoming their buddy at a conference, which is obviously expensive and time-consuming and might be difficult. But if you can become their buddy, it's very easy to start pitching them or talking to them. But the second thing is sponsoring them. You're not saying that you're going to pay them to show off your product, but sponsoring them at least opens up some form of line of communication and puts your product in their head so they know about it. One, they are influencers just as Apple employees or mug leaders are, but they are people who can talk about your product. So sponsoring them gets your product into their head and also has a line of communication with them. And when you're communicating with them, I think you need to categorize them I categorize them into three categories. You could do it however you're comfortable with, but you have your friends, you have your acquaintances, and you just have the people you've never met before. So your friends are people that you have some type of personal relationship with. And when you communicate with them, you need to be less formal. So you just say, hey, this is the update we have, this is why I think it would be good for your readers, or check it out, or whatever it might be, but you should be much more informal with them. Then you have the acquaintances where you're a little bit more formal. Maybe you haven't met them in person. Maybe you just sponsored them once or you don't talk to them that often. But those people you could be a little bit more formal with. And then you have the people you have no relationship with. And those can be people who get the press releases or who get much more formal. But as you get to know press, you can change them into different categories. And that's how you should be contacting them instead of just blasting out one press release or one email to all of them. Giving them a story. So is there something that your customers are doing, a survey that you can do, a trend in your industry that you could highlight and tell them about? Is there something unique? Are certain trends going a different way? Or whatever it might be? Is there something that you can think about that would give their readers some type of interesting story? And very importantly, don't forget about international press, non-English speaking press contacts. You could find these if you go into your Google Analytics, for example, and you look for people who have come to your site who aren't English speakers. Where are they coming from? Do a Google search for your competitors or any application, and try to find it, maybe in Google Germany or Google or in a different country, in a different Google country. So, and lastly, translate your press kit. If you translate your press kit, I can guarantee you that almost none of your competitors are doing this. Nobody has different translations of their press kits. So translate your press kit. It's very inexpensive. We use applingua.com. I think that's the name of their website. But translate the press kit and put it up there. They will appreciate that. They will appreciate the fact that you went through that trouble. And I think it's something that most companies are not going after. So to summarize, what is your biggest benefit? Is there a way that your product can make money for somebody else? Is there a way that you can convince people that your product is an investment and not really an expense? Or can you save them a tremendous amount of time? Customer support. So remember, rethink customer support. Help the greatest amount of people that you can help. Don't just focus on one person's problems. And remember, outsource. Outsourcing support can free up a lot of your time and offer a different perspective for you. Always be surveying. Always be getting feedback from your customer while offering a benefit to them for filling out your survey and giving them, and for them to take the time to give you this information. You can learn a lot about what they want, and surveying is a great way to do it. So recurring revenue, you need to be thinking about recurring revenue and how you can be selling your software in a recurring way. Whether it's just upgrades and support that you're selling on a yearly or on a yearly basis, or offering some type of service that's valuable to your customers that they could be paying for. As I said before, a hybrid model where they can get a standalone version where there is no subscription, or a subscription service is probably the best way right now to do it, because people's mindsets, they still don't like the idea of renting software, as a lot of people might say. So track your competitors in your industry with services like Mention.net or BuzzSumo. Automatically, you can get emails every single day about your competitors or your industry, and you can find people who will talk about your software, and you can contact them and let them know about what you're doing. This is one of my favorites, as I've said before, create add-ons for third-party products. It's the best. You'll have other people promoting your stuff for you, and there's already an established market. It's the best form, in my opinion, the best form of advertising that you can do. Mailing list management. So as I said before, using your mailing list to understand what your customers like based on what they're clicking and what they're reading, and also targeting your marketing messages to your customers based on what newsletters and what products and what information they're interested in. And lastly, organize your press contacts. You need to organize them based on how well you know them, and you need to format your message properly to each category. So that's my presentation. Again, my name is Paul. If you have any questions or anything, now will be the time. And don't forget to give feedback in the XDC app. So thank you. Yes?
On your press kit, did you have a professional PR company make that for you? Or did you find something online and follow the instructions to get it done properly?
No, I did it myself. Oh, sorry. The question was about whether or not I used a professional service for the press kit, or if I found something online and did that. I did it myself, and I had some people look over it. I looked at a bunch of other people's press kits, and I went to, from all the conferences that I've went to, I've heard that's the same thing from media, is just give us everything that we need. And so I just wanted to give people, I just wanted to give them what they wanted. So what's new in this new version? How do I want my application to be perceived? And give them different description lengths of my product. Yes.
How did you? What were your thoughts when you were determining the price of your products and upgrades and such?
So the question is, how do I determine the price of my product? I really like that question, because almost always the price of products are almost always arbitrary. Almost. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you could do. One, you have to cover your costs, obviously. Looking at competitors too is one way, but I actually think that you should be higher than your competitors almost always. You should. It's gonna show off value. You know, if you look. So right now we're $79.95 for our standalone version, which is pretty much in line with our competitors. We have a new version coming out, and I want to up the price, and I should up the price. It's always a little bit scary when you're ready to up the price, but the price is going to signify value, not necessarily that, oh, it's just more expensive, I'm not going to buy it. But I think usually, almost always, you should be priced higher than your competitors, unless you actually think your product is worse. But mostly you don't. So I think that your product should be priced higher than your competitors, and that should be your starting point. And yeah, I mean, obviously you need to understand what the market will bear, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do. But generally, yes, be higher than your competitors. Yes.
You're talking about international press and whatever. How do you handle international support?
So for international support, Google Translate. I mean, so I was actually so the question was, how do you handle international customer support in different languages? That's one of the things that I was nervous about was, so when we get customers, our software is localized into, I think, 10 different languages. Our website is localized into many different languages too. So when people order, you know, a lot of their emails come in their own native language. One, we don't get that many people emailing us in languages other than English. Two, When we do, we just use Google Translate. And I was very worried about that because, think, oh, people are going to start emailing me in their language. But even if they do, even if a couple people do, even if a lot of people do, it doesn't matter because there's still going to be so many people buying your product that will never even email you anyways because they could figure things out on their own. And so maybe all these people who don't email you in English are going to be upset that you don't offer their specific language. But, it's all the people who are happy that you're offering maybe just your software in their language, that's going to way outnumber these people. And the other thing too is that you could hire people that it's Europeans especially, they speak like 10 languages all the time. So even our customer support people, they could handle support in different languages. We just had somebody email us in Dutch, and one of the support guys. He's living in the Netherlands now, so I said, hey, why don't you respond to this person in Dutch? But really, I don't think it really matters that much.
How did you handle the localization process? Did you farm that out?
Yeah. So Applingua, I think is the name. Applingua.com, I think is a. I have to find out. I'll give it to you. I'll find. I think it's that. They're very, very good, and they'll do some testing of your software also, depending on how much. It's never going to be perfect, but one thing is you can advertise that you're in different languages, and customers will tell you if there's any mistakes. And the other thing is, might motivate you to learn a new language, and then you could check it yourself.
Yeah, well, I have a customer. I have someone who's very interested in basically becoming the Japanese distributor. And it's taken him 2 years so far to translate the
2 years?
Manual,
the manual, yeah.
And he's way behind him.
How long is your manual?
A couple other pages.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of companies that do translations. This one that I'm talking about that we use has been really, really good. But there's a lot of people that can do that, I think, but yeah.
You mentioned a few companies and a few tools you're using. Are you keeping a list and will you share it?
I have to see a list of all the stuff. I can definitely share it. The question was if I have a list of services and products that I use, if I can share it.
You mentioned a few. So.
Yeah, I mentioned a few. Mention.com, BuzzSumo, supportyouраpp.com, which has been really good. Applingua for the translations. But yeah, I could definitely make a list and share it. Yes?
When you talk about spending a day on an individual customer,
yeah.
That can have a negative effect because it gets out there, set the expectation, and others will get upset they don't get their day support.
I think, are you saying, so you're saying if you
spend a day with one customer fixing their problem,
yeah.
They feel loved, they get it out of the community, it's great. When someone else has a problem, they don't get their day support, they're going to get the hump. Why am I not?
Yeah, so I guess the statement or question was if somebody, if you offer really good support to one person for the whole day and then you don't offer it to somebody else, they might feel, why didn't I get this? And I think that definitely could be a problem. I think that any positive review that somebody leaves like that would obviously be really good for you no matter what, because almost every situation is very different for each customer, and I think that. It's really remarkable because sometimes the quicker you respond to customers, or the quicker you find a solution for the customer, it's almost detrimental because then they'll just say, oh, I just had this problem, and while I have you, can you just answer this for me? And it's like, well, you could have just searched in Google or my knowledge base or looked at the video tutorials or anything else and found the solution. And so, you got to let people, you got to treat them like adults, treat your customers like adults, and maybe they could figure it out. But knowing that there's somebody there that can help them really quickly, and also, I mean, I'm not saying don't help them. I think you still need to help them, but you need to help the most amount of customers that you can at once. Any more questions? That's it. Oh yes.
When you have a manual or some kind of help, you also put feedback in there so that you know if those articles were helpful. And I've seen that on certain websites, but I don't know how many people use that and if that's all that useful.
On our knowledge base, we do have a rating system, so you could say if it was helpful or not helpful. But and then obviously on our YouTube videos, you have the comments and whatnot.
If a lot of people give feedback on that,
Yeah.
the numbers?
Yeah, we do actually get a lot of feedback because in our system we could see which ones are the most popular, and I think that's really important too. And a big expense to customer support is always or the manual knowledge base is making sure that they're always up to date, and that you always fall behind on them. And with our video tutorials especially, it's expensive to continually update them. I say relatively expensive. You know, we changed the interface around a bit. Now we have to go and re-update them, but I think it's worth it from a marketing and search and support view. That's it? Okay, thank you very much for coming to my presentation. Thank you.